Welcome to Scoop World Order. It's Thursday. It is going crazy. The Michigan stuff is coming hot and heavy. Nevada Buck has a massive update on what potentially could be happening tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. We're going to get into all of that. We've got the Rutgers game Saturday, noon kickoff, Fox. Big game, 6-2 Rutgers. We got to keep on grinding, keep winning by 1 point. But we're going to get right into this Michigan stuff. As always, thank you guys for tuning in every night. We appreciate you guys. If you enjoy this content, leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bar. With that being said, shout out where you guys are watching from. And also, give me your prediction. What is going to happen to Jim Harbaugh? I'm going to go right to Nevada Buck. Nevada, you've been crushing the news. You've got some really high up sources. A lot of really high up places. And what is the latest on Michigan and the status of Jim Harbaugh as of 7 o'clock on Thursday?
Well, man, it's coming fast and furious. It's like every few minutes, it seems like there's another update or another thing. And what people just have to understand, we try to make you guys smarter listeners on the show. We try to break things down so you guys can really understand what's going on and what's going on behind the scenes. And so, let me just walk this through you sequentially. Sequentially, there was a call with the coaches where the coaches were on the phone. Harbaugh gets off the phone, and the coaches just unload on the new commissioner Petiti about the unfair advantage that Michigan has enjoyed for years, how exactly it worked, how it disadvantaged them, how it affected their bowl eligibility, how it affected the pro prospects. They just unloaded on Tony. Went off on him. Then Commissioner Petiti immediately arranges a call with the athletic directors. And the athletic directors are similarly of a mindset of the coaches. They're in lockstep. They're going to support their coaches. They're going to support a similar call for immediate action. Then the next step is university presidents. That will be a call that will be set up next. That will be an agenda item for the university presidents. Then they will appoint an executive committee of a smaller subsegment of the university presidents, because the commissioner does not have the authority to do what he wants to do without this executive committee in place. And once he has that, then they can move to sanction Michigan for some of their transgressions. They will give Michigan a reasonable time to respond to the allegations as determined by the commissioner. What I've heard proffered is like 10 days that they will have, and then he will hand down the punishment. In the meantime, Harbaugh could be suspended as early as tomorrow. That could happen. That's the latest breaking news. That could happen as early as tomorrow. That would be massive. That would be unprecedented. This whole thing is unprecedented, though. It's so hard reporting on this because, none of this has ever happened before. And so it's really difficult to project what people are going to do, how people are going to act, how quickly they're going to act, how extensively. All you know is that some people are going to feel like it's too little. Some people are going to feel like it's too much. Some people are going to feel like it's just right. Some people are going to think it's too slow. Some people think it's too fast. But it's just without precedent. And I think the fact that the coaches came down so strongly was the initial first step that I was told was going to happen. It did happen. Now it's ADs, then it's presidents, and wait for this to happen. But if Harbaugh is suspended for the rest of the year by the commissioner, wow. My first question is who replaces him? Do they bring in someone from the outside? Do they go with an interim coach? What do they do? How do they, it just creates just a cavalcade of other issues. But this thing isn't going away. This thing is not going away. The Big Ten is treating this with utmost seriousness. And so far, I've been really encouraged by what I'm hearing. I reserve the right to change my mind. But so far, I think the new commissioner is much more closely aligned with Delaney than he is with Warren. And I like what I'm hearing. Now we have to see action, but I'm hearing the action could be coming, and it could be coming really, really soon.
Yeah, I think that, you have to set a precedent. You got to be heavy-handed. Again, this isn't like something where there's just like a little bit of smoke. This is like a 5-alarm fire at this point with the amount of evidence. And again, we're only privy to what has been leaked or released in terms of the electronic data. Who knows what the outside, forensic people found and what they've given to the Big Ten and what coaches have said in interviews and if their stories have been corroborated. I mean, that's what's fascinating is it's like every day there's another clip of Connor Stalions. There's another leak. There's another, this is what they did. Again, I can't imagine what it was like on the Big Ten coaching call when, these coaches got to unload on this guy. Cause, these coaches, I mean, this is their livelihoods. This is their job, and it's like, if you get housed by Michigan 77-10 or whatever, or you lose a close game to Michigan and it's because they're cheating, you could lose your job. You could lose your livelihood. Your kids, you have to pick up and move. You get fired. If you're playing Michigan's defense and they destroy you, and all of a sudden, you get fired. The offensive coordinator gets fired or demoted or whatever. Like, it changes your life. It affects a lot of families. And again, I'm not trying to be too dramatic, but like, there's a lot at stake. I mean, there's a reason why a guy like Connor Stalions, what was his goal? He wanted to be Michigan's head coach. How can he become a value to Michigan? Well, it's not by drawing up some, incredible passing plays or running plays or defenses. Because those coaches, they're not going to listen to some intern about, hey, coach, here's this cool new play I invented. But if they say, hey, coach, I can pick off all of the signals with 95% accuracy, and every time you call a play, you'll know exactly what offense or defense you're getting. Does that sound good? Holy cow. That's the most valuable thing in the history of football, is knowing exactly what you're playing. Because here's the thing. If you're really stupid and you don't understand football at all, like a lot of people do, a lot of the people, the local Ohio State B people, they have no idea. They don't comprehend football. They've never studied football. They've never had a game plan for football. They're on the periphery of it and they try. Some do and some really don't. And some are worthless. But the thing about it is, why do you think coaches watch film, Nevada? Why do you think coaches study tape? Why do you think coaches look at tendencies and try to break tendencies and do all that? Because if people know what you're going to do, it's the easiest thing in the universe to stop it. If I know, and again, if you're, like I said, if you're really stupid, they'll say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. You still got to go block them. Deion said that, and I love Deion Sanders, but, oh, you still got to go block him. You still got to go cover him. You're like, well, yeah, if it's a run to the right, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right into the film because I downloaded this just for you guys because this is a perfect clip. Connor Stalions right here next to the DC, McDonald, the dude that went to the Ravens, right here. So he's literally right here. You can read his lips. He's saying, run right, run right, run right. That's him. Look at his mouth. Run right. Okay, so let's go. So, defense, run right. So they see it. They're signaling to him. They're telling him it's a run to the right. And watch this play. So you're playing two high safeties right now versus Ohio State with C.J. Stroud, and you got Emeka, you've got Marvin, you got Julian Fleming, you've got Cade. So you've got a real passing team. It's 2nd and 9. So it's not a pronounced run. It's not like it's 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1 where you're almost guaranteed to run it. So when you play two high safeties in football, teams generally can run on that. That's why people bring safeties down in the box to stop the run. But if you can run a two high safety look and it's a run to the right, and at the snap of the ball, so again, they're doing the look back, they pick the sign. At the snap of the ball, these guys both trigger. Like, this is crazy. Versus Marvin Harrison? Like, are you kidding me? And Emeka Egbuka, 2 first-round picks, and you have the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year at quarterback, and on the snap of the ball, these guys trigger, and you're telling me that picking signs doesn't mean anything? Are you stupid? Are you crazy? Look at this. So even if you block everybody, perfectly, there's two guys in the hole. There's nothing you can do. Literally, we blocked this pretty well. We get our kick out block. Cade cuts off the backside. We got, and there's still 2 guys right there because they have the perfect defense called. So, again, Nevada, I'll let you react to this, but, for someone to say, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, you still got to run your plays. Okay, idiot. But your thoughts right here, you can see it again because it's been slowed down. Run right, run right. Your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, when they go run right and you run zero blitz right into the spot, and I don't care what Coach Prime says or Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt, I tell you, Joel Klatt has been one of the most disappointing guys for this whole thing.
Oh, terrible.
Terrible. I used to like Joel, and I feel like now he's saying something, and it's not because you disagree with. I disagree with a lot of people that I can still like. I just feel like he's being disingenuous. I feel like he's being completely disingenuous, and he's clearly playing a role and trying to play in the supporting Michigan role and this whole
Yeah.
thing, and it's just kind of embarrassing. But I mean, on a play like that, that just brings home football. Well, it makes sense that we all look at the big plays, but little plays like that make just a huge difference. We gain it up on that thing and make it 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 or whatever it is. That's probably 4 down territory for us. We may punch it in. You may go up 14-3. That can completely change the complexion of the game. Instead, you go to 3rd and 9, and I don't really know what happened after that, but I'm sure it wasn't great. And it's just knowing what's coming is everything. And if you allow Michigan to get away with what they did, and you can only imagine if that's in the first half, how proficient were they in the second half of that game as they've gotten the indicators down and they've gotten the sequencing down and they've got this thing dialed in tight. They know exactly what's gonna. Well, they shut you down in the second half. And what happened last year in the second half? We just got shut down. They were everywhere. That 4th down pass to Stover, we hadn't showed that all year. Man, they covered the heck out of it. They knew that was coming. They covered that like they were in our locker room at the time, and that's kind of like what they were. So, from an Ohio State perspective, I don't think that there's enough that can happen to Michigan, and it can't happen fast enough. You always pray for wisdom for the commissioner that he does things, but he heard it. And he heard it loud and clear. And but there is a process that he has to go through in terms of, doing this, because what people have to remember is the Big Ten has no investigative staff. They don't have a staff of investigators. They don't have the Big Ten police that rolls out there and you're like 1 Adam 12, go to Ann Arbor and check out the report of the man. So they've always deferred to the NCAA on this. So what we're asking for is unprecedented action for an unprecedented crime, and it's tough, and Petitti's got to make sure that he's got the political support, because this is Game of Thrones, and you've got to make sure you've got the political support of the people in terms of doing this. And I think right now he's pretty much sized up the room and realizes that he's got 13 votes to 1 on this one for action, and that it's serious, and it's not just it wasn't inconsequential, it wasn't insignificant. It wasn't some rogue lone staffer that was sitting in some room like the guy from Moneyball that was in some cubicle and nobody paid attention to. I mean, this guy's right there impacting the game in the biggest way possible. And I just don't know how I don't know how any serious person can even dispute it at this point. I mean, even if you're Michigan, and I know we got a lot of Michigan fans out there on the board listening to this, but again, try to be intellectually honest. How can you defend this? How can you defend? You know what happened. You know it was the guy. You know it was Connor Stalions. You know he was in the place of honor. And then you look at it and you kind of go, well, that didn't make a difference. Well, yeah, knowing that we're running doesn't make a difference. No, run right, 0 blitz. Let's trigger both safeties while we're going 3 wide. I mean, it's just, like I said, I don't have words. I don't think the commissioner can do enough. But suspending Harbaugh is a start. That's certainly a start.
Well, I mean, there's just nothing in that scheme, that formation, and that personnel that would make both safeties trigger instantaneously on the snap of the ball. Like, I mean, they don't even wait to see if it's an RPO. They don't wait for anything. Like, as soon as the ball snaps, they're coming. Like, they're not. I mean, you could run an RPO slant to Marvin Harrison, and he's wide open. I mean, you got him wound up at the top of the screen. So, I mean, the thing that's fascinating to me about this with Petitti is that you've got, kind of okay, so let's game this thing out. Okay, you can suspend Harbaugh, which seems like the most likely scenario. You could not suspend Harbaugh. You could disqualify them from the Big Ten title. You could not disqualify them, playoffs, whatever. I just think that every day, it's kind of like, protecting the shield. Like Goodell always talks about that with the NFL. Like, you got to protect the shield. Like, you got to protect the Big Ten. And it's like, I know Michigan has been a juggernaut the last few years since they've been stealing. They magically went from a 2-4 outfit where everyone was ready to throw, flush Jim Harbaugh down the toilet, and all of a sudden he turned into, Vince Lombardi. And, like, how bad does it tarnish the league if these guys continue down this path, they make they win the Big Ten, potentially, if they would beat Ohio State, make the playoffs, I mean, and then, the whole NCAA thing wraps up and you've got to just kind of backtrack and erase kind of everything. You got to delete championships and delete wins and that type of deal. Cause that's the thing that's fascinating because I don't know how, given how strong of a competitive advantage this created, you don't act like immediately. Because that's the thing, like, and tomorrow, like I said, I mean, the coaches, the ADs, again, I think that Harbaugh's a dead man walking, just given the fact that, he's getting a lot of like kind of faux support. Like it's weird. Like, they're taking photos at practice and the president is at practice. And it's a strange move when you're aligning yourself with a guy who clearly was cheating and is clearly, on the outs. What were your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because I was really curious. Like, the president tweets a photo that literally had Connor Stalions in the photo saying how much he supports, whatever team number it is, team 134 or whatever it was, and how great they are. What'd you think of that? Because that was really strange to me.
Well, one, the photo was old because Stalions was in it, so it was an old stock photo from like months before. So it wasn't like he was like there and that was current or anything like that. And again, like, we've talked about this ad nauseum. They've got to show public support for Harbaugh because there's, the everyday Michigan fan who doesn't want to hear anything about this will go for their scalp next if they stab him in the back. But then, so they've got to show up publicly, but then privately they realize the damage that Harbaugh has done to the Michigan brand is incalculable. I mean, It is devastating, and it's what a takedown right now. And as this thing progresses, as the thing goes along, and again, we tend to look at this from an Ohio State perspective, from a Big Ten perspective, but think about it. For the rest of college football, Michigan is competing for a college football playoff spot with other teams around the country, from other conferences, and they know that Michigan was cheating. So how does that affect them? You don't think they're mad? You don't think that if you're 5, 6, or 7 or something like that, you're kind of going, why are those guys up there? Why are they being considered for this? They shouldn't be considered. They're cheaters. And so this scandal is so much bigger than Michigan. It's so much bigger than Michigan. Ohio State is so much bigger than just the Big Ten. This is a college football wide scandal, and that's why you've seen just the national media just tear into this thing because it affects so many people, so many different constituencies, and they have Michigan dead to rights on this one. They have Michigan dead. I'm still waiting for the identification of the mystery man from the Central Michigan sideline. So we're working on hour 72 now or something like that, and they haven't been able to identify who that was. There was 50 passes given to Central Michigan, and I'm sure that Jim McElwain, that's one. Okay, now we're down to 49. Let's count them down, guys. We can do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they haven't found the mystery man yet. They haven't determined whether or not it was Connor Stalions yet with the spy glasses. I mean, him wearing spy glasses on the sideline of a game in 2023 is just, we're going to be talking about this story for the rest of my natural life because it's just it's the greatest story ever. I mean, it's the greatest story ever. And Connor Stalions. Now, people also, I want to correct a little misconception about Connor Stalions. Connor Stalions, I've heard, look, I salute him. Nobody knows that nobody is a bigger fan of the military than I'm. Air Force brat, big supporter of the military. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that about Nevada Buck. And I respect the fact that he went to the Navy Academy, yada, yada. But he wasn't some cryptology expert or anything like that.
Oh, my God,
He was a freaking staff level logistics officer. It means supply. He was a supply officer. Not that that's not important. No disrespect to any supply officers out there. But it wasn't like this guy was like cracking the Enigma code or was the guy that, broke the purple code for Japan in World War II and this stuff. He's just a guy. He's just a guy. And somehow Michigan elevated from just a guy to, man, you're important. Man, we need you on full time. Man, we're going to pay you $55,000, which is 3 times what any other entry level person makes. Man, we're going to put you, you're so important. We're going to put you right on the sideline, right next to Jim Harbaugh. Man, we're going to give you a play sheet. We're going to give you a budget. We're going to give you a staff. Boy, what you're doing is so important. and it just happened to coincide with the biggest turnaround in college football history, from a team that went from dodging Ohio State in 2020 to dominating college football the next 2 years, all at the same time they started cheating. I mean, come on, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out. This is pretty clear cut.
No, I totally agree. We got some super chats. Appreciate you guys. If you guys have questions, super chats automatically get answered. Appreciate you, Tyler, my man, always in here. Appreciate you, my man, being a regular. Kirk and Nevada, let's discuss the the cheating team up north. I love that. The TC Ton staffer who was caught to catch a predator as well. His name is Alex Yoon. I mean, Nevada and I discussed this in pre-show. Again, the kid's got cerebral palsy, and I'm not making an excuse. It's reprehensible. It's disgusting what this guy did. But Zach broke the story. Kudos to Zach. I know Yoder went with it too. A lot of people went with it. It's a gross story. It's something that, frankly, I mean, the kid got fired, and again, rightfully so, because what he did was disgusting and reprehensible. But we were like, is this something that we really want to discuss? And we didn't really want to. Nevada, do you have any comment on that?
No, I thought that watching Yoder go off on Sam Webb about it was beautiful.
That was amazing.
I love it when the Michigan guys are eating their own. Then that it's over, man. It's over, because that, if you haven't watched that takedown on Twitter or whatever medium you can see that. I mean, Yoder did not mince any words on that one. He went off the top rope. He was the third man, and he dropped the people's elbow all over Sam Webb. So that was beautiful.
Oh. Yeah, and I love James. I mean, I know we don't like no Michigan people, but like Yoder's my guy. So he's pretty hilarious, because he's kind of the outcast up there, and and he goes after some of the 247 guys like Sam Webb. So it's always hilarious to me, because I do think Sam Webb is a total douchebag. WV Buckeye, appreciate you, my man, as always. Thank you for the 10. It's like this is the Big Ten, doesn't want to stop them from playing the Big Ten championship this year. Yeah, that's kind of how it is as of tonight. Then we should go get CJ, finish the season, and just do what we want. Well, I don't know. Like I think tomorrow is going to say a lot. I think that the heat is coming on the athletic director. I think that when you go to the AD simulator and you're in grad school and you're learning how to be an athletic director, this isn't something that usually is in the packet to learn how to be an AD when one of your two flagship schools gets caught red-handed cheating. In the tidal wave of negative PR from the other universities and the other athletic directors, it's kind of in your hands. And, again, if Michigan was, a 4-4 outfit right now or whatever, or 3-4, like he'd already been fired. It had been over. But they're number 3 or 4 in the country. So when they're that high, I mean, everything changes. Like Michigan's going to hang on them, because, again, you have to remember where Michigan was before Jim Harbaugh. Like Jim Harbaugh was kind of like their Urban Meyer when they brought him in, but they sucked. I mean, they had Brady Hoke and Rich Rod, and I mean, since like 06, they'd just been kind of, twisting in the wind. Like the Rich Rod era was just an abject disaster, set the program back 50 years. And then, you bring in Brady Hoke, who's a lot of the old timers' favorites. He worked for Lloyd Carr, defensive guy, loved Michigan, was beloved by the former players. Like a lot of those guys on that 97 team that won national title games, those guys thought the world of Brady Hoke, and he was kind of an up and coming guy, and he gets the job. And then, he was adequate. They won a Sugar Bowl in 2011, and they looked like they're on the up and up. Then Urban came in and just smacked them every single year. And then they got to get Jim Harbaugh, a guy that took the, a legacy, a guy that played for Bo, a really abrasive, strange guy, but, he was the apple of their eye, and he got there, and Urban owned him, and then Ryan Day owned him, and then all of a sudden, the last 2 years, the heat was on. You got to remember, Jim Harbaugh, they made him take a 50% pay cut, and then he interviewed with the Minnesota Vikings, then he interviewed with the Broncos. So it's been a very bizarre run for him, but the last 2 years they've been good. They've beat us twice, not necessarily fairly, but they won. In the record books as of today, this says a W next to it. So I don't think people at Michigan are dying to go back to the old days. Your thoughts on that, Nevada? Do you feel like it feels like the Big Ten doesn't want to stop them from playing in the championship? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Now, first of all, let me correct you on one thing, and I hate correcting the All-American on one thing, but
No,
they
you're
didn't
good.
beat us last year. They cheated. They cheated last year. They cheated. They cheated. They cheated. They freaking cheated. Okay, they cheated. So let's stop talking about them beating us last year. I'll take the 2 years before that, but I will not take last year.
Oh,
I will not accept that was a loss
you
last
should,
year.
you should you should go to Vegas with your gambling tickets. Say, hey, they did not beat us. They did not beat us. Give me my money. We won. It's like,
They cheated. They cheated. That's settled.
okay,
That's been settled.
that's fair
Okay.
enough.
Second point. The Big Ten coaches want forfeits. They want Michigan to forfeit conference games this year, which would enable some of them to gain bowl eligibility, and secondly, put Michigan into a position where they were not qualified for the Big Ten championship game. And I still think it's very much a real possibility in terms of depending on the university presidents and the ADs, how strident people are in terms of this stuff as the stuff comes down. But that's what they want because, look, a Harbaugh rest of the year suspension would be unbelievable. I think about this, for people thinking about how severe that is. Think about if Ryan Day got suspended for the rest of the year. What type of an impact would that have on Ohio State? I mean, it'd be devastating. But for Michigan, look, for me, given the extent of the cheating, I don't think that a Harbaugh suspension is enough. I think they should absolutely be made to forfeit their conference games. Does the Big Ten really want to have Michigan as their representative in the college football playoff? Can you imagine the media outcry on that one right there? And like I said, if your team's 5 or your team's 6 or you're a conference that gets shut out and you're like, those cheating SOBs got into the college football playoff, how dare you? This is ridiculous because everybody knows it's going to be vacated. Everybody knows that they're going to be found. Like, you don't have to be, Johnny Cochran to figure this one out or anything like that. This is not some whodunit. We already know who done it. They done it, and they did it poorly, and they did it ham-handedly, and they did it in a way that was so easy to trace. It doesn't take a big investigation to do it. And sadly, the good stuff, the juiciest stuff in this whole thing, the gambling and the practice footage is all on Weiss's computer, which is part of an FBI investigation. So that part is kind of locked away right now because that's a criminal investigation. That's not civil. That's not NCAA. That's not Big Ten. That's criminal. And so we got to wait for that to play off. So, look, justice delayed is justice denied sometime. And I think in this case, you have to, Petitti's got to feel the pressure from the media, from the other teams inside the Big Ten, and from the public to make a strong statement about this and to make it harsh and to make it impact Michigan this year. Because like you guys said, well, why affect the kids? Well, why affect next year's kids? Why should the 2024 Michigan team be in any more impact? The 2023 team's the team that benefited. Connor Stalions was on the sideline, said to Michigan this year. Yeah. That wasn't 2022. That wasn't 2021. That wasn't COVID.
Oh God.
That was this year. So the sanctions should hit them this year. It should hit them hard, and it should hit them where it hurts, which is forfeit those conference games, and that automatically makes them ineligible for the Big Ten championship game, and that's what they should get.
Yeah, and again, like the kids are the last people that anyone cares about in situations like this. Because again, coaches get fired every year. It's going to happen again this year. You'll use 30, 40 coaches will get fired, move on. Coaches leave. It just like the kids are the last thing they think about. They think about the brand, the Big Ten. Again, like you said, if you have Michigan in that playoff and they've got all those mandatory media availabilities and you got to wheel Harbaugh out there and he's got to have the mic in his thing and we can't take a question on that. We can't take it. This press conference this past Monday was an absolute abomination just because nobody cares about who they're getting playing Purdue. All they care about is what'd you know? How long did you know it for? What else do you know? What don't we know that you know? How do you think this is going to end? Because again, the Titanic has just hit the iceberg, and right now, the lights are starting to turn out, and the water is starting to fill up into the chambers. So that's kind of where Michigan is. So other super chats, TK on the Nevada train. Appreciate you, my man, for the 10. Thank you for the hard work breaking this down. I've replenished respect for Ryan Day after the losses to Michigan. I think a lot of people have, just because, again, like there's photo evidence of these guys literally calling our plays out and calling their plays based on it. So it's like, that's, like losing a poker tournament where somebody knows all your cards. If you say, hey, that guy's got a straight flush, you better fold, don't raise, re-raise, whatever, like that. That's how you win. If you know what other people are doing, you can bluff, not bluff. You can be aggressive, not be aggressive. It's the whole game. So appreciate that, my man. D Sonny, as always, appreciate you being in here all the time. With all the cheating coming out, do you think Ohio State's players and coaches' confidence has risen going into the Michigan game now? What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, I mean, look, that game is going to have so many different subplots. If is Harbaugh suspended, if he's not, Michigan's going to be playing stuff that Ohio State is the supervillain. Ohio State did this. Ryan Day's brother was the one who hacked the computers. But it's going to it is going to be one of the more interesting games that you'll ever see in your life. And I think it's going to be great theater. It's going to be great theater, and it's going to be great to watch. I think Ohio State's better than Michigan. I think Ohio State's better than Michigan. I think, for Ohio, I think Ohio State's a really good team. I think defensively we're really good. And back to the previous question about Ryan Day, I am the furthest thing from a Ryan Day apologist. And anybody who follows my posting knows I'm not. I'm fair. I'm fair when it comes to Ryan Day. Ryan Day gets a freaking pass. He gets a freaking pass for last year for sure. With me on the Nevada Buck thing, he absolutely gets a pass on last year's game, because I really feel like we're cheating, and I get so mad about it, because I love that team. I genuinely love that team, and I feel like we were robbed of seeing something really special, and it's just a shame. What a great moment it would have been for everybody on Senior Day. They're in Columbus. You have a chance to win, beat Michigan, advance onto the playoff. More than likely get into the final game, and then you take your chance against Georgia in a national championship game. And we got robbed of all that by some cheating weasels up north that were using this loser. And that's why I love to hear them. All the Michigan coaches. Oh, I'd love to talk about it, but I just really can't. Oh, shut up! You don't want to talk about it. You really don't want to talk about it.
You don't.
You don't want to talk about it, because what you're going to say. We all know what you're going to say. I didn't know he was doing that. I had no idea. Wow, I just thought he was really, really good at reading signs, and I had no idea. And he just came up behind me one time and was talking, and I didn't even know who it was. He was dressed in a Central Michigan thing. I didn't know he had the wrong shoes on. He was wandering around. I just thought he was just some guy from a different team. So, no, the coaches don't want to talk about it. Michigan doesn't want to talk about it. But Ryan Day, every good Ohio State fan should give Ryan Day a pass for last year, because that wasn't his fault, man. That wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting, because nothing has come out with the Central Michigan thing at Michigan State with Connor Stalions being on the sideline, but I would bet a large sum of money that Connor Stalions either got a ticket or somebody gave him a ticket to go to the game. It goes to the game, and there's ample time for someone to slip him a field pass. Because again, like when you're in the mix, like they're not really checking your field passes after the beginning of the game. So, if he's in the stands, or if he's walking by the gate, or if he's by the visiting locker room, one of those little GA guys or one of those little intern guys could hand him their pass once they're already in there, and just hope that nobody checks their pass. Like again, this isn't like some sort of neurosurgeon move to get down there, and he did. And
Kirk, but Kirk, he had the Central Michigan coaching outfit on. Like, was that just a coincidence? He just was like, you know what? I'm going to go to
So someone could just give them their thing. Again, somebody from the inside of that program gave him the regalia to go in and stand there. So, again, but it's just not that hard to, hey, come in, Connor. And again, and I bet you a lot of those guys were cool with it. They didn't care, because, if he's sitting there picking signs, he might help them, keep it a little closer against Michigan State, because Michigan State is no juggernaut. And like you always talk about, that game was close at the beginning of the game. So, if he's giving them some intel and saying, hey, here's all their signs.
Kirk, that game was 7-3 Central Michigan with 48 seconds to go in the first half.
That's what I mean. It's like,
That was
7-3
Central Michigan with 48 seconds to go. Yeah, they kept it close.
I know. And there wasn't a guy on Central Michigan's team that had a Michigan State offer, but yet they're playing with Michigan State. So, again, it's coaching is a very small world. Like, these guys know each other and they try to help each other. And if they don't like you or they do like you, it makes all the difference in the world in terms of how much additional advanced scouting you get from teams. Couple more. D. Sonny, I'll comment on that. I think that the players, coaches, the players and coaches, I'm sure that their confidence is growing, but they're not thinking about Michigan right now. They can't. They got to think about Rutgers again. Like, I've been in their shoes where they've got everything in front of them. They're undefeated. They've got the whole Columbus community saying how great they are, which is something you have to fight off with a baseball bat. You can't get too in love with yourself at this point because, frankly, you're number one in the playoff thing, but the only poll that matters, the only two polls that matter are the one after the conference championships and the one after the national championship. That's it. Because you need to get into the dance to be able to win the dance. And then once you're in the dance, you got to, get your 2 wins and get your big gold trophy for the national championship.
Well, Kirk, let me ask you. You had a big Michigan game coming up, 2006 game of the year.
Oh yeah.
Probably biggest game in the history of the stadium. How did you guys do the week before against Illinois, against that stinky Illinois team?
Did we play them the week before? Or did we play Northwestern the week before?
No,
I think we played Northwestern. I thought we played Northwestern the week before. Well, I know that we played Illinois. We played Illinois coming down the stretch. We sucked. We were terrible. It was 17-10, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something like that. Yeah.
And it's like that's we got to guard against this year with this Rutgers game. I think when I look at this Rutgers game, I'm like, man, it reminds me of Illinois.
Yeah, we played at Illinois. It was 17-10. That was the worst game we played all year, other than the Florida game. And then we went at Northwestern and beat them 54-10. So like we kind of got our bounce back. But yeah, that Illinois game was weird. I mean, it was like because we were winning at halftime, I think 17-0, and then we didn't score in the second half, and they scored 10, and it was a 1-score game, and they were awful that year. I mean, they were like probably 3-9, or let me see what their record was. They literally were 2-10 that year, and they played us better than anybody in the whole league. But I mean, it's funny because if you I'm looking at their scores, and they lose to Wisconsin by 6. They Michigan State they beat by 3. Iowa, I mean, all their losses were remotely close. And Illinois was a weird team because the next year they beat us, and they had Vontae Davis and Rashard Mendenhall and Pierre Thomas, and they had NFL guys up and down that roster, which is weird because they generally stink, but for whatever reason they were good on it. So all right, Rob, appreciate the 2. The players they were signaling the signs. Yeah, I mean, we broke that video down. I'll throw that video up here in a second where they were pointing at the sky for the pass, and I don't know if what they were pointing at the ground for the run or whatever, but no, I totally agree. Pooh Beard, I love the same Pooh Beard 12. Appreciate the 10. The play you showed was followed by a hurry-up pass play on 3rd down, and somehow a Michigan team that ran an all-out blitz is magically recovered into a flat zone and sticking to man-to-man. Well, again, like James Franklin, and I'm not a James Franklin guy at all, the head coach at Penn State. The way he described it was perfect when he said, when we're in 4th and 1 and we're going for it, and we've got heavy personnel, which is like 3 tight ends on the field or 2 tight ends in a split end or whatever, and every indication and every tendency they had said it would be an inside run, and they end up throwing a shot, and then somehow Michigan is in 2 high safeties, which is like it's a pass defense. Like, it raises an eyebrow because you're sitting there and you're just like, why would they ever call that defense versus, a heavy personnel, and they knew that you were throwing it deep, unless they have your signs, which again, that's the advantage to having signs. It's like, oh, they're going to throw it deep here. We're going to get in nickel, or we're going to call cover 4 and not bring the house or whatever, So, but your thoughts on that, Nevada? Again, I know we've talked about it, but Michigan, magically, they're running all out blitzes. Also, they go flat zone when we do the hurry up pass play. Was the sign stolen? Does sign stealing matter?
Well, again, you got to remember, we've only got the footage. Like, The only time we can ever splice this footage is when you have footage of the coordinators right before the snap. And you think about it in a broadcast, that probably represents like 1% of the
Yeah.
broadcast thing. They never show the coordinators. So what you showed with with Stalions going run right and then he goes zero blitz, that happened 100 times in that game. That happened 100 times. So
Yeah.
is that an advantage? Yeah, I'd say that's an advantage, and because it happened over and over and over again, and again, it explains why Michigan is such a statistical outlier in the second half of games over the past 2 years. This has been such a huge advantage, and it's almost scary how big of an advantage they were able to garner with this. And it kind of, to me, it should send off alarm bells to all the coaches in college football that, man, if your signs are done, you're done. You're done
I know.
because Michigan and the funny thing about Michigan's dominance, you look at their dominance was really limited to conference opponents. They dominated their conference.
Yeah.
They were like 18-5 against conference opponents, and against out of conference opponents, it was okay, but it wasn't 18-5. So it's like, huh. So the teams maybe that they scouted a lot, they had their systems on, and the teams that they didn't scout a lot, they didn't exercise the same type of dominance against the spread against them. That to me, that's it. That's over. That shows you the impact of this. When
Yeah.
you're dominating the conference opponents and then you're out of conference opponents, you're doing okay, but you're not blowing them out of the water. Come on, that's all you need to know.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's kind of the point that we're making is like, it's, these guys, again, there's a reason why this is flying really close to the sun. And if you get caught, your career is over. Like Connor Stalions is never going to coach again. Like he's done, and a lot of these coaches, like depending on how deep it was, like this is going to be a black eye for all of them. Cause again, they're getting they're caught their hand in the cookie jar at this point. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's going to be really interesting. I think tomorrow would be the perfect day to suspend Harbaugh, kind of a news dump Friday, right before all the games start, because it's just, I don't know, like it's going to be fascinating because, I'm sure that, the new commissioner of the Big Ten is getting heated up pretty good by the coaches and the athletic directors. Because again, there's a lot of money at stake for these guys, for these coaches, man. Ryan Day, he loses to Michigan again, and it's because they're stealing signs or cheating or whatever. Like it ain't good, and a lot of these coaches, man, like they're going to get fired or whacked. And if Michigan hangs one on them, they beat them by 70. And, why does their defense suck? Why does their offense suck? Well, it's because they're calling the perfect plays, each way against us. I'm going to break a play down real quick because this was one of my favorite plays from the Wisconsin game. I know we're going to do some more breakdowns. We'll have a breakdown for the Rutgers game literally right after the show. We've been able to get some film. This is the old truck play. They call this truck. Little outside, little pitch. And again, this is the beauty of Trey Henderson. Trey, he gets on that edge, man. And again, this is why I love, creative stuff. I love the speed. And that's so easy. We have, great edge blocking here. And, Trey, like once he gets it and he gets into sixth gear, like right here, this is great by Josh Simmons. You got Cade, but it's over, and that's a free, 20 yards. And, it's terrifying. And he's the kind of guy, if he cuts it back, he might have even more. But your thought, Nevada, on the utilization of Trey, because I hate when you have a guy like this and you just run him in the A gap. It's kind of like what the Detroit Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like it drives me crazy when you have a guy that runs a 4.3 and he's just running in the A gap, and then magically they put him out on the edge and he gets like 25 yards. But your thoughts on the utilization? I'm going to break this thing down again.
Yeah, no, I think they did a great job of getting stuff to the outside. I think they did a great job with orbit motion, and then when they ran their kind of the inside stuff on the play that Trey, when the touchdown on that short side run, he was able to follow the blockers, kind of go slow through the hole, get up on their back, and then burst through it. Touchdown. It just shows you the versatility of a back like Trey Henderson.
Yeah. Again, this is really good. Carnell's got a block, a kind of an outside linebacker-ish dude. Julian, who's our best blocking receiver, gets the crack in here. This guy kind of slips. It looks like they've got their down trigger guy. He takes a bad course, and then he slips and he takes himself out of the play. Josh Simmons gets enough of the guy. Again, like you don't have to kill these guys. You just got to kind of absorb them and get in the way. And then, Trey hits a crease, because Trey has no vision. He's got, again, and this is pure sarcasm for people that aren't fans of the show. And he just, Trey does what Trey does, and again, that's why he's going to be, if not a first round pick, a high second round pick, because this is the kind of stuff that, NFL guys, like the Alvin Kamara types where he can do anything. And again, with the exact same offensive line, magically he averages 6.7 yards a carry and all of our other guys average 2 yards a carry. So Trey's a special dude. This is going to be down the stretch. We're going to need him probably as much as we need anybody on the entire team, just because when he gets the ball and he can hit those home runs, and not to mention, he's a punishing runner too. That's the thing. People they get this kind of negative connotation when you have a guy who's a speed guy, that he's also not a power guy. But the rare ones like Saquon Barkley and Trey Henderson are both. They're combo guys, and he's a combo guy. And that's why he was the number one player in the country coming out, because his film, he will lay the boom on you, and not many guys will do that. Got another super chat. Appreciate you guys as always with these. Can you imagine if we cheated 3 years in a row? We'd be national champions for 3 years. Michigan can't even get one. That is a great point. Again, those 2 Michigan losses loom just incredibly large in the history of Ohio State football, because CJ Stroud probably could have won 2 Heismans, and again, I know Archie's our 2-time guy and whatever, but those Michigan losses, those Big Ten championship games were jokes, and that Ohio State Michigan game at this point, as dominant as the 2 teams are, that is the de facto Big Ten championship game. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? If we'd have cheated the last 3 years, do we win 3 national championships?
No, that's a great point about CJ Stroud. I remember he was the betting favorite, I believe, 2 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And how does that change his legacy? How does it change his legacy at Ohio State? How does it change Ryan Day's legacy? It clearly changed Jim Harbaugh's legacy and trajectory. He went from the guy getting the 50% pay cut to, hey, can we sign you to an extension, albeit with a much sterner NCAA clause, Jim. But no, I think it had a profound impact on the history of Ohio State football. And I just think cheating in this way gives you such a huge advantage, and it's hard for me to believe that there are serious people that take the other side of that. Like when I hear that, I'm thinking, are you just trolling? Is that just coach speak? Are you just being provocative? What are you doing? Because for someone to say that, you'd have to be super unintelligent,
No.
because it's everything, man. I've coached, football, not anywhere near the level of this, but it doesn't matter what level of football you're coaching. If you just knew it's a run or a pass, man, I would never get scored on. I would have never got to, if I just knew that it was a run or pass. Nobody would have ever scored on my defense. I can tell you that. And it's just, like I said, it's an interesting proposition to think about how much this has changed things. And this 2023 year is going to be a year. It's an unprecedented year, but it's going to be a year for unprecedented punishment too. And so we're all witnessing history in real time, and that's always kind of fun.
Totally agree. Nothing new. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 20. If they suspend Harbaugh, the OC and DC should be suspended as well. Thoughts? Thank you, Kirk, Nevada. Appreciate you, my friend. Again, that's the hardest part for me is where do you stop the bus? Because, if you suspend Jim Harbaugh, then you promote Sherrone Moore or the DC, they're just as complicit. They might even be more complicit in it. And I'm not, again, when you're the head coach, it starts at the top and you're responsible for everybody underneath your org chart. But, the coordinator is both new. And so, it's almost like a joke. Like if you promote Sherrone Moore, because that's the guy that, if Jim Harbaugh would have went to the Vikings, I think he would have been promoted to the head coach because he's kind of a rising star. But, is he? That was the biggest thing when he got promoted to offensive coordinator, and Rick Minner's kid, the former Cincinnati head coach, when he got promoted to DC, it was like they had 2 brand new guys who never, called plays ever. And they magically became the 2 greatest coordinators in the nation. They, Broyles Award finalists. And I'm like, how on earth can these guys in their first year of running the show just magically just become so good? Because they were 2-4 the year before. Again, Michigan ran for the hills when they had to play us in 2020 because we would have ran them out of the gym if we had played them in 2020. So they canceled it because of, the fake COVID coronavirus, garbage made up crap. And then all of a sudden, these guys become real good. So your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because that's one of the most interesting things to me is like, I assume you don't suspend the coordinators too, but like, where does the buck stop when they're all in on it?
Well, I think we have to, we want to be fair. Like on this show, we want to be fair. We want to be smart. We don't want to be stupid on the show. So like, that's one of our basic tenets. Let's not be stupid. Harbaugh's responsible for this because he's ultimately responsible for everything that goes on at that program. Yep. So whatever Stalions did is directly behind. Now, we don't know that the coordinators know. We know that Stalions was by him, giving them information, but we don't know for a fact that they knew how he got the information. We may have a strong inkling, we may have a suspicion, but we don't know that. So from my standpoint, I don't think it'd be fair to suspend them on a strong suspicion. But Harbaugh should get the death penalty because he's ultimately responsible, and we know Stalions was there. We know he was cheating. We know he was wearing the Inspector Clouseau spy glasses at the Michigan State Central Michigan game, and for that, Harbaugh should get the death penalty. But for the coordinators, from my perspective, until you can tie them together, and that's going to be part of the NCAA investigation, part of the examination of the email servers and the other electronic communications, I don't think you can move on those guys because I think they have plausible deniability, just like the players. Somebody asked about the players. The players were all doing the dance, pointing up in the air. For all they were just told, hey, point to the air when we scream pass, because Connor Stalions is a savant, and and he's the he's the Rain Man of calling signals, and he was able to figure them out by looking at them. So just do the pointy dance whenever he does it. So that's my opinion. I respect that people have different opinion on it, but that's how I view it.
Well, I mean, here's my thing. If you're one of the players and you have to somehow it has to be broken down to you as to why this analyst or this intern is the guy that, oh, hey guys, when I point at the ground, it's a run. When I point at the sky, it's a pass. Just do that. Cause like, if I'm sitting there and I'm a player, I'm like, how do you know that? Oh, because you picked the signs? Like, oh, okay. And then like when people see like, and again, I'm not, these guys are mostly general studies majors at Michigan, so they're not really the smartest guys. I know a lot of them, and frankly, like, they're great, whatever. Congrats on your worthless degree. But why would I, trust this guy? And why? But here's the thing: like, if I'm a player, if I'm one of the defensive players, I'm standing next to Minter and him, and he's going like this, and I see how proficient he is, and I'm like, wow, he really knows all the signals, like from the beginning of the game on, and like, this is crazy. Like, this guy really, like, I mean, at some point you got to be like, well, how does he know everything so well? The game just started. Again, you can pick him live, like I did that. But I didn't have any like prep work. I didn't have any film. I didn't have anything on like the All 22 where they're doing the little dances and I could pick it all up. I mean, I had zero. But I mean, if you're there and they're giving away the signals, like, take them. But I didn't have, like, this guy like did ridiculous prep. I mean, the amount of work this guy did to sync up the plays, get to know the signals. Because again, when you're doing this, you got like no time, and you've got no, this is in the heat of the moment, biggest game of the year, can't be wrong. You can't, Minter can't, you can't miss on a signal. Minter calls, a double safety blitz, or, tells the two safeties to trigger on the snap of the ball. And then, they throw a slant right over their head to Marvin Harrison. You can't miss on these. So the amount of practice and precision, because again, like, I don't know if this guy used flashcards or if he just made like a video study thing where he just kept going over and over and over again. And he'd look at Justin Fry and he'd look at, the other two signalers and say, okay, that's what it is. Okay, there it is. And, and then he has to crack who's the live signaler. Like, it's, there's a reason why Ohio State has three signalers, and they all wear different colored shirts, and they hold up the little cardboard on the sideline to make sure that, the people up top in the press box can't see it. Is because, they know how valuable it is to keep their information hidden and their play calls hidden. So, again, this guy went above and beyond. And again, when you know what's at stake in the Ohio State-Michigan game, and you know that this is life and death, and this is people advancing in their careers or getting fired. Because at a lot of these schools, you're either advancing or you're getting fired. That's kind of how it is. So, they know the stakes. Good.
Kurt, let me ask you a question, and answer me. I know you'll answer honestly. You're an honest guy. Answer this honestly.
Sure.
You were able to crack signals while eating nachos and drinking Red Bull up in the stands. If you had a staff of people going out and
oh my God,
and taping the signals, and you had full time, your only job was taping the signals, just syncing that up with the game tape, learning the indicators, doing those things. How proficient would you have been on game day calling out plays?
It'd be unbelievable. I mean, you wouldn't miss. You wouldn't be able to miss because you'd be, you'd if your whole job and you're working 80 hours a week when you're a coach at Michigan is to break the signals. You could literally do it. I did it live during a game while I was studying the plays. Because again, you have to remember, like when you're, a guy up in the booth, like you're usually watching some part of the O-line, the left side of the O-line. So again, when I worked with Ed Warner, whatever side of the O-line was closer to the sideline. So if you've been to the stadium and the home sideline, if we were driving towards the opened end of the stadium, Ed would watch the right tackle and the right guard, and I would watch the left tackle, left guard, and center because he couldn't see that because he watched the guys that were closer, and then we compare notes in between plays and in between series, mostly in between series because in between plays, Tom Herman's got to get the call in, and so you're not really talking on the headphone. But I would always write notes if somebody got beat, if somebody had a bad step, if somebody whatever happened, what kind of blitz or stunt they ran, what kind of front they ran. So after every play, I would have all these notes. But then, when the play's over, and you've got 40 seconds before the next snap, I would just check the signals to see if I could pick them, and again, this wasn't like some sophisticated thing. This is literally me. Okay. He did like a Weeble Wobble dance and he did he did the shark sign, which is that's a Sam Blitz. Like every defensive coordinator in America does the same sign for that. Cause again, you got to make the signs complex, but simple enough that the players can remember them. Because you're not dealing with Copernicus out there. You're dealing with a bunch of guys that have 9s on the ACTs, and some are illiterate when they're playing defense. They're not like offensive linemen that are smart guys. So you gotta really dumb it down sometimes. And that's why it's funny when people are like, oh, well, they could just change the signals every game and at halftime. I'm like, dude, have you ever coached these players before? That'd be like if you changed the names of all the plays at halftime and said, hey, 13 book is going to be 956 jet rocket ship now. And you'd be like, why? I can't remember all that. You can barely remember the plays as it is. And then you switch the signals up on some of these kids, they'd look like goldfish out there as you're signaling to them. They just have the eyes like that. So, but again, what I did was it was as bare bones and, easy as you could do it. And it was completely legal, obviously. And what these guys did, this was a sophisticated, it wasn't sophisticated. It was a very ham-handed way of attempting to do this. But, it's if you had all day, good.
So give me a number. You have all day. You have a staff. You have the signals. You have the tapes. You have games. You have that. How proficient? 70%, 80%, 90%, 60%?
Oh, 95%. Because here's the thing. If you're taping 8 games of Ohio State football and you're taping their signals for 8 games, you can, each game you can go game by game. Because again, this guy didn't do the Ohio. It's not like he started on the Sunday of Ohio State week. This guy was working on the Ohio State signals all year. From the first game on, he's cracking the code, and you're figuring out, okay, who is signaling to what? Okay, this guy signals to the offensive line. This guy signals to, it's like the little Keenan Bailey play sheet. Like I said, okay, this guy signals to the slot receiver. This guy signals to the, again, you figure out what is each guy signaling? Are some guys signaling anything, or is it meaningless? Is it a dummy signal? And then, how often, this is a really important one, how often are they changing their signals? Are they changing them at halftime? Do they never change them? Because again, the word I got is we don't really change our signals too much. So, if we didn't change our signals last year at all, it was real easy to pick them because we didn't change our signals. So, again, they've changed them. They're changing them this year because, again, we got whacked last year by Michigan. But, if a team never changes their signals, that's another huge data point for Connor Stalions. He's like, man, Ohio State never changes their signals. This is going to be like stealing. Then you can become just ultra proficient. Because again, when you do that and, Jesse Minter, makes $5 million a year as the Ravens defensive coordinator now. And, Sharon Moore will be a head coach one day and make, $10 million a year or whatever. And Harbaugh, those guys will all remember that this Connor Stalions dude was the guy that literally helped me pick all this stuff and helped me do all this stuff. So eventually, they're going to be like, hey, dude, do you want to come be my tight ends coach and make, $500,000 a year? Sure, I'd love to. Hey, do you want to come be my linebackers coach or my special teams coordinator? Because this guy was just trying to make it in the profession. So, again, he was trying to do it by any means necessary, and he broke every rule known to man trying to do it, and he got whacked for it. So, but again, there's a lot on the line when you're doing this. And again, the amount of anger that we got from losing to Michigan and the amount of pleasure they got from beating us, it justified it to this kid. And that's why this year he's like, all right, I was good at it last year. Now I'm going to turn it up even more this year. I'm going to go be on the sideline at the Michigan State game. I'm going to go to the Notre Dame game, and I'm just going to become ultra proficient at it. So, again, it costs us, it cost CJ Stroud a good senior day. It costs, him the Heisman. Again, CJ Stroud should have won the Heisman last year. If he beats Michigan and they won the Big Ten, he's probably a unanimous Heisman winner, but he didn't. And they gave it to Caleb Williams, who's a turd, and who got ran out of the gym by Utah. So, I don't know. I think that the kid, he screwed up, but you can see these notes. Again, this is Zach. Zach has been on fire lately. When you see, what are they signaling to? Are they signaling to the slot receiver? Are they signaling to the O line? Somewhere on here, there's notes as to, what does Keenan Bailey's signal mean? Does it mean it's going to the boundary guys? Obviously Justin Fryer or Mike Salini, he's signaling to the O-line. And again, do the colors mean anything? Does that change who they're signaling to? So again, there's a lot to crack, but it's not really that hard to crack it, if that makes sense. And again, when you've got millions of dollars on the line, that Michigan gets and goodwill, and those donors being all excited because we actually finally beat Ohio State for the first time in 20 years. And that's what these guys did. Feedback, I appreciate you, bro. Guess the old M will be in the shower with Sandusky. Yeah, I mean it's getting pretty dark up there, But
well, I wonder if I can bring Sue, because I remember what I had to sustain on our message board last year after the Ohio State Michigan game.
Oh God,
and how bad that was. I wonder if I can sue them for pain and suffering for fraud or whatever they did right there, because that was horrible. I haven't put up with for 2 years, and to know all along that they were cheating. I mean, I like I said, I can just imagine Burt Carton on the sideline being able to call plays to a 95% proficiency, and how much of an advantage that would provide. Do you know what I would do, Kirk? I wouldn't put you away. I'd put you right next to the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. You know that?
Just so that you're on TV the maximum amount. You can just be on TV the entire time, and you can be pointing, and all the backup nose guard can be like, "Oh, it's a pass! It's a pass!"
I would give you a seat of honor, man.
Well, I mean, they kind of did, and it kind of got them cooked, So, but we'll wrap this thing up, man. Any final thoughts? Again, big day potentially tomorrow for Jim Harbaugh. But your thoughts on that, and I'll wrap the thing up. Thank you, Bart, for the super chat. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's in the hands. We're moving coaches, ADs, presidents, executive committee. That's the move in terms of this. I have confidence in the commissioner to move it and to move it along expeditiously and to do his thing. I reserve the right to change my mind if he swerves, but I don't think he's going to. He's got the full support of the league, and I think it's going to come down, and the hammer's going to come down hard. And for Michigan, you reap what you sow, and they're going to start sowing tomorrow.
Oh my God, man! I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. Well, appreciate you guys as always kicking it with us. Again, the growth of the channel has been fantastic. So thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. If you guys enjoyed this content, leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click the little alert bell. You'll get an alert every time we go live. About to jump on BuckeyeScoop.com. We got a big Thursday night football thread, Steelers Titans. So join us for that. We're going to be talking ball all night. But again, if you enjoyed this, leave us that like. Those are huge for us. Thank you guys so much. In the comments, leave me your plans. What are you guys doing for the Rutgers game? It's a noon game. Happens to be my birthday. Super excited about it. So I'll be kicking it, enjoying it. A nice, easy noon game versus the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So we'll have full coverage of that, pre and post game shows on BuckeyeScoop.com. So keep it locked here as always. But I'm about to jump on BuckeyeScoop.com. I hope to see you guys on the boards because our boards are absolutely cooking right now. It's on fire and it has been a blast. So as always, thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.